Welcome back to my Survivor Winners Ranking. Last week we left off at number 21 with Nick Wilson, and we will be covering the rest of the 20 winners we haven't talked about. Now, it's time for the controversial part. Moving on, number 20, we have John Cochran. And John Cochran played a pretty fantastic game. I mean, people bash him for, having a ton of relationships, and I'm completely not bring that into factor when talking about their winning games, considering that Cochran was a pretty big figure throughout the season, as nobody in that cast disliked him. I can't name a single person who hated him. He's kind of like an Andy Herron. He is a severely underrated winner who played a completely dominant game. So Cochran went in the majority alliance that was being run by Philip, and then he completely just stuck with that until the final 10, where after Philip went home, he completely just took power of the tribe. And you may be saying, "Oh, but no, him and Don were making decisions, so he didn't really dominate the whole game." And I disagree, because Cochran was able to get Don to agree to take out Brenda. Let me say it again. Brenda. Okay? So, Cochran played a fantastic game here, and nobody in the season disliked him. So, but he didn't control all of the game. He only controlled about the later half. So with that, I put him at number 20. Moving on, number 19, we have Tina Wesson, and Tina Wesson is a really good player of Survivor. But her game wasn't really that great. I mean, she was on the bottom of her original 5-person alliance on the Ogukor team, but she was able to realize she was on the bottom, flip over Keith and Colby to vote off. Flip over Keith and Colby to vote for Mitchell to go home, and with the past votes, she used the past votes a lot in the season to get the person who she wanted out. She was able to use past votes to get Mitchell out, and then at the merge, she was able to use the intel that Kimmy gave her in the pre-merge to use that against Jeff Varner, where Jeff Varner was then taken out. And then she basically steamrolled the rest of the game with Colby. Thing is, it was with Colby. I mean, she made a couple moves on her own, getting out Amber. But other than that, she didn't really do. But other than that, her and Colby really just ran the tables, which is something that I don't give as much credit to Cochran, as he controlled the end game. But Tina at least controlled more of the game than Cochran did, so I put Tina above Cochran. Moving on to number 18. We got a pretty controversial one. These next two are going to be very controversial, but at number 18, I have Thomas Westman. And I may be hearing it right now. What the heck? Why is Tom so low? He was such a great winner. And personally, I do agree. Thing is though, he would have been voted out at the final 6, at the final 5, at the final 4, and at the final 3 if he didn't win immunity. Other than that, he controlled the whole entire game with Ian. So, 3 rounds of almost being eliminated, but he won immunity, and then him sharing dominance with another figure who would have won if he didn't win those immunities. So, Tom had a very flawed endgame, but a pretty good rest of the game. So, he lands here at number 18 as, I think he's a little bit better than Tina, but he's also not great considering that he was never on the bottom of an alliance. He was just usually outside of an alliance when he was going to get taken out. Moving on to number 17, and this one is going to be debatable. And number 17, I have Parvati Shallow. And Parvati, I think, is a fantastic player of Survivor. However, her game here is honestly not that great of who I want from a winner. I do give her credit for creating the Black Widow Brigade, but she most likely is the first boot if Fair Play does not quit the game And what was supposed to happen, except James Medevac had to happen. It was supposed to be a final 3, but James got medevaced, which made it a final 2. If it was a final 3 with her, Amanda, and Cirie wins that season, as Alexis Jones, who was the swing vote there, more than likely votes for Cirie. Everybody getting 2 votes. She would have got only Jason and Natalie's votes. Amanda would have probably gotten Ozzy and Eric's votes, and Cirie probably would have gotten James, Eliza, and Alexis's votes. So she loses that final 3. But I also do give her credit for being, like, she didn't really control most of the alliance. It was more of Cirie controlling it. And I do give her credit for making a relationship with Amanda, that she's not on the outs with Amanda, where Amanda played her idol and she's safe, but I can't ignore the faults in her game, so this is the highest I can put her. So she's here at number 17. Moving on, number 16, we have Yul Kwon. And Yul Kwon played a really good strategic game of Survivor. I mean, he was able to steal the money from Ozzy, as he was able to take a vote, who was Adam Gentry, from Ozzy, and make it to where he makes a deal with Adam that if he votes out Penner before he votes out Parvati and Adam, then Adam would vote for Yul if given the option to do so. And it happened. If not that, Ozzy would be a millionaire right now. And probably would be on Winners at War, but still. I do have a couple faults with him. He, at the Final 4, the idol should not have been playable. And if it was going to be a Final 2, like most of the people in the game thought it was going to be, then Ozzy more than likely wins that final immunity, votes out Yul, and wins against Becky. But I do give Yul a lot of credit for his masterful dominance of the I-2-4, and his masterful jury management. So here he is at number 16. Moving on to number 15, we have the first ever winner, Richard Hatch. And Richard Hatch played a pretty dominant game of Survivor. I mean, he was out on the first vote, but honestly, do we really care? And then at the second vote, he knew what was going on. He voted out Stacy. And then he formed the infamous, what was it called? Toggy 4. With him, Sue, Rudy, and Kelly. And those 4 ran the pre-merge. And then, once the merge hit, they ran the merge until the final 6, where Kelly is getting some doubts. And he's in the top, where him, Sue, and Rudy are planning on voting out Kelly if she loses immunity. But guess what? She wins immunity throughout. But I do give Richard some faults, as he came into... also, we can't ignore his final 3 move. That's obviously a big, huge part of his game. But at the final tribal council, here's some faults. He came into the vote basically winning 6-1. He had Colleen's vote and Jervis's vote. He pissed off Jervis. No, Sue technically pissed off Jervis. If it wasn't for Sue, Richard wins Richard wins 5-2. And Colleen just flipped her vote in the middle of tribal. So you can't really blame him for. So I don't know. I think it was just Kelly's answer that gave Richard the win. But Richard also was a really dominant force throughout the show, but he did rub a couple people the wrong way. So at number 15, he is. At number 14, we have Wendell Holland. And Wendell Holland is in this top tier of winners for me. And that's because, basically, except for the Morgan vote, him and Dominic completely ran the season. Like, they completely dominated this whole entire season with basically no trouble except for Chris Noble kind of being an idiot. But other than that, him and Dominic completely ran the season. My main 2 flaws with him is that he shared that dominance with Dominic. He had a perfect shot at the final 6 to shoot Dominic out of the game. He didn't take it. And now he's sitting in the final 3 with Dominic, where he almost loses the game as Angela and I think because like Angela and Chelsea's votes were not locked in. So he completely lucked out that those two didn't vote for Dominic. And then it was a tied vote. So I do give him credit for making the relationship with Laurel. But did you really know that that the end was gonna come down to this? I don't think so. So I can only put him at number 14 with his flaws, but he did dominate the whole entire season with Dominic. So here he is, number 14. Moving on to number 13, we have Brian Heidik, who's a very controversial figure, and we will be talking about some bad stuff throughout this list. So skip to number 12 if you don't want to hear it, but especially with this time and the Black Lives Matter movement, we will be talking about some harsh things. So Brian said to Ken, who was a New York cop, that they should have voted, instead of Brian, to vote for Ted, who was a black guy, because they can't have another black winner. This was really early in the show, season 5, where the only black winner so far was Vesepia Towery. And Ken, Penny, and Jake, who were in the minority, did that. If Ken revealed this at Final Tribal Council, Brian loses the game because Ted was a vote for him to win. It was a 4-3 vote. If Ted finds out about this information, Brian loses the game. And I also give him a ton of flack for almost losing to the GOAT of the season, Clay Jordan. How do you almost lose to Clay Jordan, who is universally hated? But other than that, he did dominate the game and was pretty well liked by his tribe mates. So here he is at number 13. Moving in to number 12, we have Sarah Lacina. And, I mean, she played one of probably the best social games of, all time. She dominated the season in the merge. She didn't dominate the pre-merge. I felt like she was just a background character there and not more of a dominant force in the season. But once the merge hits, she steamrolls. I mean, she votes out Sierra to get her legacy advantage. She forms multiple bonds with people to get people out, and then she's able to get the legacy advantage, play at the final 6 to where she goes home there. But I do give her, she probably would have been safe even if she didn't have it. So she was a very dominant force throughout the game. My only flaw that I can actually see is that she didn't dominate the pre-merge. Oopsies, that's a little bright. She didn't dominate the pre-merge, and she almost went home at the final 6. So I do give her fault for that. But other than that, she had an extremely dominant win, fantastic social game, and completely ran the season. Moving on to number 11, we have JT Thomas. And JT was awesome. I mean, he completely ran the season with Steven Fishback. I mean, if it wasn't for his last 2 immunity wins, I do feel like Fishback probably tries to take out JT. But other than that, JT dominated the season. I mean, nobody in that cast disliked him. And Brennan, somebody who is still in the game, said, "I will do anything to get you the win." Everyone in the season was just a minion to JT. So, I mean, he played a fantastic social game. He dominated the season, both physically and just in the game in general. He dominated it socially, physically. Not there strategic. I don't think he's that well there strategically, as I think that's more of I think that's more of Steven as their alliance but he still played a really good game as Survivor, which is why I put him at number 11. Moving on to number 10, we have Natalie Anderson, and once again a very good player of Survivor. She was in the second in command for most of the season with Jeremy, but once Jeremy gets taken out, she steamrolls. She was blindsided at Jeremy vote, which I do give her a little bit of a downgrade for that. But after that, she steamrolls. She's able to, I don't think she had a little bit of, I don't think she had agency in the West vote out, but she definitely did have agency in the Reed vote out. She convinced people that it was an accident that Alec got voted out. I 100% give her credit for the John Mish vote out, the Baylor vote out. She was able to play this like chess, where she's looking forward into the game. So, the final five was Baylor, Missy, Keith, Jacqueline, and her. Missy and Baylor are mother and daughter, because this was the second blood versus water season. Natalie has an idol, and Missy and Baylor are planning to take out Jacqueline. Natalie realizes that if Keith wins immunity, she's most likely going home at the final four. So she works with Jacqueline and vote for Baylor. She plays the idol on Jacqueline. Baylor goes home, and Baylor was hated by the jury. So that's also a move that they see by the jury, that like, oh my God, Natalie, we give you our money. So yeah, Natalie was a very strong player in this season. And at the final four, Keith came in second in that challenge, with Jacqueline winning. So if Jacqueline was voted out there, Keith wins immunity and she goes home at fourth. So I give her a ton of praise for this. So that's why she's here at number 10. Moving on to number 9, we have Tyson Apostle. And he's probably my favorite Survivor player pretty much ever. He basically dominated the game with Jervis basically throughout the entire season. I mean, he was a background character for the first half, but then at the merge, he was able to take out Aris and completely sweep the rest of the game from there. Although, he probably does lose to Tina if she does win that final immunity challenge. And he also loses to the following: Hayden Moss and Sierra Easton. So I do also flack him for that. But I do also give him a ton of I guess, like, I really bash him for the final, what was it, for the final 6. For the final 6 rock draw. He has an idol. Jervis has immunity. Sierra, Hayden, and Katie vote for Monica. Tyson, Jervis, and Monica vote for Hayden. So even if they put the votes on Tyson, he plays his idol. Those votes are negated, and then Hayden goes home. Or since they put the votes on Monica, he still could have played the idol. They could have went to a rock draw, and then it's only Katie and Sierra who is able to be voted out. So there's really no reason why the idol shouldn't be played there, but he doesn't play the idol. So he played a fantastic game, but the final 6 really drops him a little bit. So he's here at number 9. Moving on to number 8, we have Tommy Sheehan, and people don't like him and think he's a bad winner. I completely disagree. I mean, Tommy completely ran this season. So obviously he made relationships with Jack and Lauren, which then eventually branched out to basically the entire tribe loving him. And then once we get to the tribe swap, he's in a little bit of a bad position there, but he's able to. They don't go to tribal there, but that was a twist that got him screwed over due to the block a vote. When we move on to the merge, he's able to take out Aaron. Well, he doesn't really take out Aaron, but he does. Aaron and Missy and Elizabeth control that first merge, but what I do give him a ton of credit for is the final 10. How he survived the final 10, I still have no idea. the final 10, he should have been dead to rights. He should have gone home there. Elaine, Elizabeth, and Missy clearly had a shot to vote out Tommy, which is what Elizabeth and Missy were trying to do. He was there with 4 previous Lyra members, him being the only Vokai. And Elaine saves Tommy, and they're able to get out Missy. With his social game, he saved himself, which is something we haven't seen from a winner in a long time. He did it with he won without an immunity idol. He won without immunity wins. He won. He didn't even win with the fire-making tool. He just said, "Hey, Nora, take me," and Nora did it. Like, he completely brainwashed all of these people into loving him. The only person who really didn't love him was, like, Elizabeth, but, like, come on. Elizabeth was a non-factor in the season anyway. But, at the final 8, too, he was supposed to be gone, but Dean's like, yo, they're throwing their votes on you. So he's able to completely shake up the game and get Karishma out. So how he survives any of these votes is absolutely astonishing to me. So that's why he's here at number 8. Moving on to number 7, we have Todd Herzog. And I love Todd Herzog as a winner. I mean, he's one of my favorites ever. But I do find a couple of flaws in his game. He did dominate the whole entire season and basically had an alliance with everyone. But at the final tribal council, his votes were mixed. I do give him credit for having probably the cleanest final tribal council performance probably ever. Except an Australian Survivor, but I haven't seen that yet. Todd Herzog was able to strategically maneuver throughout this season masterfully. He was able to sway Jean Robert's vote in the middle of tribal council with his answer. So, he also came up with the James blindside before Amanda came up to Todd saying, yo, James, you know that guy? Yeah, that guy needs to go. He said that before in the season before Amanda brought it up. So, yeah, I do give Todd a lot of credit, but I do also give him a little bit of flaws due to his final tribal council jury votes before the final tribal council not being so great as he probably would have lost. But he still won in the 42-1 vote because he's such a master speaker. So here he is at number 7. Now we have 6 more people left, and at number 6 we have Tony Vlachos. This is his Cagayan game. And Tony Vlachos was a very sporadic winner. A lot of people thought him as paranoid, and a lot of people saw him as a traitor. But, I mean, he played a masterful game here. He found a couple of idols, but he never needed to use these idols. He used the super idol to give him another way out of the game at the final 4. So even though it wasn't supposed to be played at the final 4, it was already nullified by then. But other than that, at the pre-merge, nobody disliked Tony. He was in an alliance with a lot of people except for Clay and Lindsay, and they were planning to take him out. And then once the merge comes, they flip over Trish flips over Cass, but after that he completely controls the game. He takes out Sarah, he takes out Morgan from the Apari tribe, and then he takes out one of his own, and then he keeps switching from voting out the other team to one of his team members. So he's still able to take out big threats, and people who are planning to flip on his team will also still being able to continue the pagagging. So, and then at the final 3, he's able to convince Wu to keep him when it was totally in Wu's best interest to take out Tony. So, yeah, Tony Vlachos was a very good winner of Survivor, and here he lands at number 6, but I do feel like 4 other winners are better than Tony's Cagayan game. 4 as we soon. Moving on to number 5, we have Earl Cole. And Earl Cole played a very dominant game of Survivor, but I think he shared that dominance with Yao Man. I do give him credit for having the relationship with Yao Man at the final 6 vote, where he votes with Yao Man, or probably votes for Stacy if just in case Yao Man is an idol, because he was in on the Yao Man plan. But he voted out Yao Man at the final 4, which ultimately got him the win. As if he voted out Cassandra. Cassandra more than likely loses in fire making, and it's a very, I think it's like probably a 5-4 vote with Earl versus Yao Man. But the only vote he got throughout the entire season was just like a I think like a 4-3-1 vote, where Rita just voted for Earl for no apparent reason. But Earl still dominated this game and completely ran the tables with Yao Man, except for the final 6. So here he is at number 5. Now at number 4, here's somebody we already talked on the list, but somebody where we talked about him last time. Here's Tony Vlachos, but from Winners at War. And this game is fantastic. I mean, he was pretty much on the outskirts of the majority he was on the outskirts of the majority in the first in the pre-merge. In the pre-swap. But at the end of the swap, he's put into a pretty bad position. But once the merge hits, he steamrolls. I mean, everybody likes Tony. And at the final 9, it's labeled the Tony episode for a reason. Tony's able to get multiple people out. He's able to get Sophie out. He's able to get Kim out. He's able to get he's able to get Jeremy out. He's able to get Nick out. He's able to get he's able to get Denise out, but at the final 6 is where his game kind of goes to hell, but this is only because Natalie comes back from the edge. If Natalie doesn't come back from the edge, he has a much smoother road of winning the season. As he's able to just take out Michelle. Actually, Michelle won immunity there, so he's going to be able to take out Denise as she was on the bottom, then take out Michelle, then basically probably win against Sarah in the final tribal council. Obviously, he also wins against Ben. So, but at the edge, in the case where Natalie comes back, Natalie wins immunity. No, Natalie plays her idol, puts Tony in jeopardy. They take out Denise. Puts Tony in jeopardy again, but he wins immunity. They take out Ben. And now everybody except for Sarah wants him gone. Natalie wins immunity, and now it's Sarah versus Tony. And Tony wins a fire-making duel and wins the season. So it was basically Edge that ruined his game, but he still was able to overcome that. So that's why I put him at number 4, because of him just being able to adapt to the game and play a dominant game as well. So moving on to our top 3. At number 3, we have Jeremy Collins. And Jeremy Collins, nobody in the season disliked him, right? He completely ran the tables, as he dominated the entire season, and he's able to form this Spencer and Tasha final 3 and get to the end with them and win unanimously. I'm pretty sure the only person he loses against is Kelly Wentworth, which is my one flaw with him. Kelly Wentworth. He wasn't able to take her out until the final 4, which is a huge flaw in my opinion. As if they take out Wentworth, he wins the season automatically. Nobody is able to take him out, but he doesn't take out Wentworth until the final 4. So yeah, that's a huge flaw, but still not enough to put me any lower. Plus, there's a bit of bias here. I just love Jeremy. So, at number 3, here he goes. Now, with our top 2, it's pretty obvious who the top 2 is, but where do they rank? At number 2, we have Rob Mariano. And I see a lot of people flack his game for it took him 4 times to win. He sucks. His cast was a bunch of idiots. In my opinion, that doesn't discredit his win at all. It was just completely dominant. Nobody here can disagree that Boston Rob played one of the most dominant games in Survivor history. I mean, nobody on the original Ometepe tribe disliked Rob, except for probably Christina. But he was able to take Christina out. And then he completely dominates the game, just rolls over all of the contestants. But the only flaw I do have with him is that the jury didn't love him, as people were just finding a way to try and not vote for Boston Rob. But with the combination of Nat 10, Philip, and Boston Rob, I mean, you're obviously going to vote for Boston Rob. So Boston Rob goes here at number 2 just because he never was in danger of going home. So here he is at number 4. No, number 2, sorry. Now, the most dominant winner of all time, it's pretty obvious, Kimberly Spradlin. Well, technically Kimberly Spradlin Wolf, but at the time she won, it was Kim Spradlin. But Kim Spradlin played one of the sickest games I've ever seen. I mean, she was in the majority Girls Alliance for the pre-merge, but once she hits the merge, she's able to use her relationship from the guys to convince them to vote out Jonas. And then after that, she's able to pagong the guys, take out Kat along the way, and then take out Alicia, and then take out Christina, and then win. That's it. The only way she gets taken out is if Troyzan actually puts his idol to use, which he doesn't. Everybody except for Troyzan and Leaf loved her. So there's literally no way, except for Troyzan playing an idol, that she loses this season. Like, and that's the only person I can confidently say has no shot of going home ever. So here she is at number 1, just because she had such a clean road to victory that I can't discredit her at all. So anyways, those were all of the 40 winners. Woo, that's probably over an hour of footage that I filmed. But that's it. That's my Survivor winner rankings. Next week, I will come out with a Big Brother rankings. Then I will come out with the Amazing Race rankings. And then it's back to reviewing seasons of reality TV. So, that's it for today. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.